Beyond the Gates time, let's get into it. So Vanessa thinks that Dani left these glasses at Bill's house solely to mess with Hayley. Maybe. Then Mona runs into Kat at Orphe Jeans and they're just catching up. And then Kat is shook when she sees Mona go over to Randy's table to talk. Chelsea and Naomi are still fuming after Hayley put them out. But then Chelsea's like, oh, it must be hard on Dad. You know, he needs somebody to talk to who's neutral. Not Dani, not Hayley. And then we see Bill going to the casino to talk to Joey because he needs a friendly ear. Okay, I didn't know they were friends, but let's see. So Dani maintains with Vanessa that she did not do it on purpose when Anita walks up and she's like, what didn't you do? What did you do now? Dang, mama. Oh my goodness. Hayley is so bothered about these glasses. She calls Randy. He doesn't pick up. She leaves this angry voice message. Why are you never useful? And then she breaks Dani's glasses again. Why does she care so much? Like, you don't like Bill for real? Who cares? Mona and Randy are talking at the table and he said something didn't sit right in his spirit, but he's relieved now because he doesn't have to do it anymore. And Mona was like, oh, so what you're saying is Joey did something and you actually feel bad about it. This while Kat spies on from the bar because, ooh, Randy and Mona got energy and they would be cute together, right? I mean... So Joey and Bill are talking and Joey was like, oh, I didn't know we crossed that threshold into being friends, but okay, sit down. Here's some top shelf liquor. Don't tell nobody I gave it to an attorney and what's going on. And surprisingly, Bill is opening up. He says, as someone who is used to being in control of things, his health scares are concerning him and he does not know what is going wrong. Yeah, your bestie cuz is special, all right, Chelsea. So Chelsea finds out that her live with Eva has 1 million+ views and Naomi is thanking her about that, but they are so fake because when Eva was walking into this little dance party that this one was having, Chelsea and Naomi acted like they didn't know Eva, but whatever. Naomi's so proud of Chelsea and Chelsea's happy because she's like, you know, we not only went viral, but me and Eva could be saving real lives. And then they talk about how Naomi is impressed with how Chelsea smoothed things over with her special bestie cousin. And she's like, yeah, you know, Kat can be borderline obsessive just like she is when she's on a case. Back to Orphe Jeans. So then Kat is texting Chelsea that, you know, she thinks this tea that she's seeing with Randy and Mona is going to be extra hot, but she'll talk to them later. So then Randy and Mona are just talking and she's like, you know, I can relate a little bit. We both work for high profile people in the DMV where discretion and loyalty is a must, blah, blah, blah. And then she notices Randy, you know, feel like a little odd. And she's like, oh, I can tell that's a man who realizes that the money doesn't hit the same when your conscience starts kicking in. So then they just talk about what he does a little bit. And he said something and Mona was like, do you really think Joey would kill you if you mess something up? And Randy was like, girl, I'm playing. But we know he not. And she was like, you scared me. Anyways, so then, you know, he just thanks her. He's like, you know, he hasn't had anyone to talk to since his best friend, Doug. He didn't say Doug, but he hasn't had anyone to talk to since his best friend died, and he just feels comfortable with Mona. And then he has to go on about his business. This man wasn't even out the door before Kat runs over to the booth and sits in his seat. It's still warm. She was like, oh, Mona, who is that? Blah, blah, blah. Mona is telling him, telling Kat who he is. She didn't say his name, I don't think, but she was like, oh, he works for Joey. And Kat was like, oh, you know, because I saw your eyes light up when you were talking to him, and I just wanted to make sure he was worthy of you. And Mona was like, you are barking up the wrong tree. No, she not. You like that man. You sweet on Randy and have been from jump or whatever. So Kat got this information, and she was like, oh, okay, Mona, I gotta go bye. And Mona was like, So I think she's running over to tell Kat and Naomi. Chelsea and Naomi. So then Anita has also had a trying day, and she is at the club to get a Swedish massage, and she's updating Vanessa on, what put her in a mood today. She had a conversation with Ned about this compilation of remastered work that Barbara did before she left the Articulates, and they're going to put it together in an album. So then Anita was like, whatever. What were y'all talking about? And then, Danny got into it a little bit. I left these glasses. Vanessa thought I did it on purpose. I did not. The little harlot found them and texted me. And Anita was like, well, what were you doing over at Bill's house anyways? And she was like, I went over there after the hoe kicked my babies out. And Anita was like, I know you lying. No, she did not. My Swedish massage can wait. I need libations and food for this conversation. So Vanessa, Danny, and Anita are about to get a table. So Bill and Joey are relating. Joey was like, it's odd to see you like this. You remind me of me. You're usually unfalpable or whatever the word is. But then Bill says, but I actually do need a favor from you. If anything happens to me, Bill, I want you, Joey, to look after my family. I did not see that coming. Vanessa, Danny, and Anita are at the table. I forgot to mention that Danny told Anita that she thinks Hayley is cheating on Bill. So then they're talking about the Randy and Sammy of it all, and Vanessa dropped some good intel. He's from Philly. We knew that. He had a wife before, and he has a son. I did not know this about Randy. But Vanessa was like, that doesn't sound like Hayley's type, because she was like, no offense, he's just Joey's minion. Like why would Hayley risk her money for this man? And Danny's like, being married to Bill is lonely, blah, blah, blah. So then Anita was like, I didn't want to tell you this, but the night of the tornado, I saw Hayley and Kyle Abbott together, and they looked like they got their fingers caught in the proverbial cookie jar, and that she didn't want to tell Danny this because she didn't want Danny running back to Bill, basically. Hayley stops by unannounced at Naomi and Chelsea's home to apologize, and Naomi promptly kicks her out just as Kat arrives to spill this tea. Bill basically wants to make sure his affairs are in order because he is the fixer for the Dupree family, because they don't like to get their manicured hands dirty, like he said. So Joey understands this, and he agrees to keep an eye out for the Dupree girls as they get older, as long as Bill will do the same for Vanessa, because Joey being with Vanessa changed his outlook a little bit on his mortality and things like that. So then Anita wraps up her conversation at the dinner table, and she tells Danny, basically, don't give Hayley any energy. Pay her dust. Don't let her take up real estate in your mind. And I did not see Hayley and Kyle actually together, but my intuition is usually not wrong. And she goes off for her massage. Danny has to leave as well after Naomi texts her, and then Vanessa calls Randy, and she is like, we need to meet now. Also, Mona showed up at the casino right as Bill was leaving. He was like, oh, I'm so surprised to see Nicole's holier than thou housekeeper or house manager here. And Mona says she's there to just play a hand, and she asks Joey if he will play with her. Okay, Mona. So thanks to all these side conversations, Danny goes over to see Naomi, Chelsea, and Kat, and she lets it slip that Randy is from Philly. And Kat's like, oh, isn't that also where Hayley is from? And they all say, yes, it is, because the cousins were trying to figure this out before Danny came in with this key piece of information. So they are getting closer, y'all. Vanessa and Randy meet up, and we find out that he is the reason that Doug became a doctor, because when they were younger in Philadelphia, they got into a little fight and Randy got shot. So that was really interesting to hear. And then Joey is asking Mona what she wants to play for, and she said, what about Randy Parker's soul? So Randy and Vanessa both share guilt around Doug's death, but of course she does not know that Randy knows what happened to Doug. And then she advises him to basically be mindful, because Joey's not the only powerful person in this town, and Bill is too, and be very mindful as to whose house you're in. Wink, wink. Joey is thoroughly impressed with Mona because she cleaned him out, and she was like, half of this will go to the choir and the other half will be for me. And he basically respects Mona, but he's like, please don't try to save my soul. And she was like, I think we're way past that. But, you know, Joey's like, I'm not going to fire Randy. And basically it just is what it is. So she was like, can you just give him an assignment that's not going to keep me, Mona, up at night? Mona, you are never beating the allegations. You like that man. The cousins and Dani continue to piece it together. They really think she's onto something with this Philadelphia connection. Naomi's a little, but Kat's like, come on, you have to admit, this is sketchy. And then Bill thanks Hayley for what she did. And she's like, I just want you to get what you deserve. If you're not following yet, hit that follow button right now and turn on your notifications so you never miss a recap.